The Rocket Sports team putting in the work this week, bringing you not one, not two, but 3 exclusive interviews on our platforms this week. Wait till you check this out. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Habs Hockey Report right here on the All Habs Hockey Magazine YouTube channel, part of Rocket Sports Media. And you can find us, of course, online at allhabs.net. So glad that you are here with us for the opening of training camp. It is here. It is today. Players are already sweating it out, doing speed testing at Brassard today. And we are glad that you are here with us this week as we are every Thursday here at Habs Hockey Report. I'm your host for the show. I'm also, my name is Amy Johnson, and I'm also the lead correspondent over at our AHL and Laval Rocket-centric site, which is ahlreport.com. If you're new to the channel, or maybe you've watched a couple of episodes, but you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I invite you to do that right now. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, hit the like button down below, hit the share button. That's the best way that you can help us out, because we really want to keep growing this audience. We've had hundreds and hundreds of new subscribers over the course of the summer because you've all been saying this is the content that we really appreciate hearing. It's so different from the other stuff that we hear about the Habs out here in YouTube. As I mentioned, our Rocket Sports team across all of our different platforms, whether it's our websites, whether it's our podcast, or here on the YouTube channel, our Rocket Sports team has been working the phones literally this week. We have had 3 exclusive interviews. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of those 3 interviews today. I'll tell you this. One is with a player. These were all exclusive one-on-one interviews. One was with a player, one was with a coach, and one was with a member of the media. We also always want to hear what you have to say, so that's why every week at the top of the show, I will bring you a feedback forum question. Answer the question in the comments down below, and I'll read them and react to them next week on the show. This week's feedback forum question is this: who is the one player you are the most excited to watch at Montreal Canadiens training camp? It could be a prospect, it could be a veteran, you name it. Who's the one player you are most excited to see what they can do in this preseason and training camp with the Canadiens? Drop that comment down below and let's get started. It has been a busy week with rookie camp and the rookie tournament taking place. It was a very fun tournament to watch. I tip of my hat to the Montreal Canadiens for deciding to be involved in this larger tournament held and hosted by Buffalo. It made for some really fun games to watch, and I think it gave the prospects much better exposure and much more of a chance to shine. Keeping in mind, of course, yes, we know the Habs lost 2 games and came out with a win against Ottawa on Sunday. But the rookie tournament more is just for coaches and management to kind of just get that first look of the prospects and see where they're at, see where their game is at, see where their decision making is at, see where their skills are at, what needs work, what has improved, and kind of just get that first kind of foundational evaluation time in place. And there were certainly plenty of players during the rookie tournament who stood out. Of course, all eyes were on Juraj Slafkovský. Some, of course, a little, fans in some circles already, concerned that, oh my gosh, he didn't go out there and just absolutely destroy the competition. Well, that's okay. Keep in mind his age. Yes, Uri Slafkovsky is a confident young man with a lot of skill that really separates him from the rest of the pack, but he is still an 18-year-old. This is still a very new environment for him. He is still out there trying to impress, so perhaps trying to do a little too much in some cases. He even admitted as much in his first post game after the first game. And also keep in mind, this young man needs to adjust to playing on the smaller ice here in North America. So that's going to take a bit of time as well. And so the things that, that muscle memory that comes naturally for him is going to need to get tweaked a little bit as he adjusts to a smaller ice surface and how much faster the game moves. So I think you'll see him start to settle in. He had some really nice moments, had a beautiful setup for Philippe Méchair's goal in that first game. There were definitely things to like about what you saw from Uri Slafkovsky. Speaking of Philippe Méchair, I was very impressed with the maturity of his game, good decision making, and I thought that he looked very impressive, as did Owen Beck. Owen Beck, I think, surprised a lot of people. It's always nice to me to see in these kinds of tournaments. It's always nice to me when there is someone who's maybe a bit more under the radar, who really forces everyone to stop and say, hey, look at that kid. And that was Owen Beck this year. Early second round pick in the draft this year. And Owen Beck had some magnificent play, scored a goal in both of the first two games, but his 200-foot game is exceptionally strong. That's what he's known for, being a good defensive forward. And it was fun to watch him as well. Emil Heineman, holy cow, that kid comes as advertised. What a shot he has. He is going to be fascinating to watch. For me, he's the one I'm actually the most forward to watching in training camp this year. It's likely that he's going to end up in Laval to start the season, but Emil Heineman has played in Europe. He's played against men, and you can see that experience and maturity in his game in the rookie tournament, and I'm really excited to see what he can do in the preseason. I think he's a really dynamic player to watch, and I was very impressed with what he did in this tournament as well. Jan Mysak was killing it in the faceoff dot. We're going to get to see Jan Mysak return to Laval for real this time. Remember, he was there for a little bit 2 years ago when the OHL, when the CHL was shut down. He had that special exception to play in Laval for a little while, and we liked his game then. Well, he's had a whole year's development in the OHL since then, and he has certainly gotten a lot stronger. On the back end, I thought Jordan Harris, Justin Barron all did a pretty solid job. It was great to see Caden Gooley get into the lineup for that third game, and boy, Caden Gooley, despite rehabbing over the summer and so forth, doesn't look like he has missed a beat at all. If I'm looking forward to watching Emil Heineman in the forward core during training camp, I would say Caden Gooley is who I'm very much looking forward to watching on the back end during training camp. This young man has so much promise and so much potential. Can definitely see him as a future NHL top pair defenseman, and it's exciting to watch him play. It was a fun rookie tournament to watch. Rick Stevens and I got to sit down on last week's episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast with none other than Joe Yerdon. Joe has written for The Athletic. He has been a Sabres beat reporter. Now he is host of the Maintenance Day podcast, has his own Substack, but is also writing for McKeen's and Bleacher Report. And we had the opportunity to sit down and have a lengthy discussion with Joe, who was in Buffalo for the rookie tournament, on what he observed from the likes of Uri Slafkovsky and who stood out for him from a different perspective as far as the Habs prospects, as well as giving us a little bit of an inside look on the Buffalo Sabres rebuild, which is a couple of years ahead of Montreal's, and some of their exciting prospects that are coming down the pipeline. Take a listen to just a little excerpt right here. What were your impressions of Uri Slafkovsky for his first time out in this game?
Well, it was very impressive for me. What was interesting to me was that I saw a guy that was like eager to show off. I mean, not in the flashy hot dog ways, but a guy that wanted to show his skill. He wanted to dominate the game. He even said that beforehand. They asked him, they're like, is this a situation where you want to own the game? And he's like, well, of course, I want to win. I want to dominate. I want to dominate every game. It's like, okay, all right, buddy, cool. Like that's, love hearing stuff like that. There were situations where, to me, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but it looked like he was testing himself to see what he could do against some of these guys. But you could see how he wanted to really test what he could do. Sometimes it didn't work great. He had a one. He
one against four.
One against four, and hit the blue line and then gave up the puck right away. Which hey, that's what happened. Now a little bit later on in the game, he had a 1 against 3 and was able to do something with it, and was able to kind of get one or two of the guys turned around and was able to get the puck away to a teammate. Not bad. And there was another play where, he basically passed to himself off the boards to kind of get free and set something up. The shorthanded goal he sets up to Meshar, it was brilliant. It's just a beautiful pass and something where you're not sure if he knows the guys there. He said he knew he was there. Those guys know each other, so I think they would know if one's going to be there for the other one. But it's the kind of thing where he's got such an instinct for that. There was other times where maybe he takes the puck into a situation where it didn't work so well. There's a Sabres shorthanded goal in the third period where Slavkovsky is along the wall and he skates up towards the blue line. Instead of sending the puck down in the corner and to get a restart, he's like, well, let me just chip this to the defenseman. Well, he's got a guy right on him, and the Sabres player was able to knock it away, and away they went for a goal. So, listen, Sabres guys were trying to test them. Some guys later in the game were taking runs at him. Berzola, Berzola was getting himself into trouble in that game, throughout the game. He took a ton of penalties for Buffalo, and obviously I had that high hit that had everybody in Montreal worked up, rightfully so. But he took a run at Slavkovsky late in the game, and I didn't ask Slavkovsky this, and maybe I should have asked. I don't know if somebody else may have. I'm convinced he saw where Berzola was, and he's like, I'm going to take this puck to him. Let's see what he can do. And they met right in the middle, right in the middle of the slot, and Berzola bounced off him. And I'm like, okay. Berzola's not a small guy. He's 6'2", 200. So, and he was going out hammering everybody all night. So, it's just wild to see something like that. But some of it, the work of his hands down low. He was so smooth with the puck. His vision, his instincts, I think, are top notch. I came away very impressed with him.
Great stuff from Joe Yerdon. It's a really fascinating interview. We get kind of really deep diving on these prospects for the Montreal Canadiens, and a bit those exciting ones for the Buffalo Sabres as well. On that most recent edition of the Canadiens Connection podcast, I highly recommend you check it out. If you would like to listen to the full interview, and it's not a short one. We really had a good deep conversation with Joe Yerdon about this. If you'd like to hear that entire interview, click the link up above and check out the latest episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. You won't be sorry. It was a tremendous interview that you won't find anywhere else. Speaking of exclusive interviews, this is something I'm going to give you a sneak peek of because it hasn't actually been released yet. Coming up on this Saturday's episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast will feature an exclusive one-on-one interview. I had the opportunity last Saturday to sit down for a talk with Owen Beck over the phone, and we had a terrific conversation about the rookie tournament, about his family, his upbringing, his background, and his game and skill and what he is projecting for himself this season. It was a really fun and fascinating interview, and here's just a little sneak peek.
It's very important just to start with possession all over the ice and in any situation. So, as a centerman, that's something that's very important to me, and it's something that I've really just worked hard to do. And obviously, coming from the OHL, I've taken a lot of faceoffs against Mishak, and I've noticed he's a pretty good faceoff taker himself. So there was one skill in particular that I wanted to pick up from his game and apply it to my game. And I was pretty fortunate to for us to both be in the Habs organization and kind of have access to him.
So again, that is an exclusive one-on-one interview with Owen Beck. You'll find it when it comes out this Saturday. That would be September 24th. It'll be out this Saturday on the Canadiens Connection podcast. And if you'd like to make sure that you don't miss it, just go to canadiensconnection.fm, hit subscribe, and you'll get a notification when that episode drops. It's an interview you don't want to miss. It was a great conversation, very insightful. He's a very well-spoken man, and we are happy here at Rocket Sports to be able to bring you this kind of exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. Training camp, as I mentioned, has opened. They did skills testing today and speed testing. Very hard run first session after a full day of media and all of their promotional things that they did on Wednesday. Training camp is packed this year. We've got 74 players on the training camp roster. Here's the big thing that came out of training camp and its first day of skating sessions today as they did testing. Early injury reports for some reason. Not great news. Nick Suzuki is out 2 weeks with a lower body injury, so he will miss the first 2 weeks of the preseason. Josh Anderson, day-to-day with an upper body injury. Joel Edmundson has a lower body injury and is out indefinitely. That's concerning, to say the least. Jake Evans has an upper body injury. He is out day-to-day. Hopefully Nick Suzuki will be back into game shape and be able to get into that last week of preseason games and get back into game condition before the regular season starts. It sounds like Jake Evans and Josh Anderson maybe will be ready by next week or later on in the weekend. But Joel Edmundson is going to be the news now that we need to keep an eye on. That would be a big loss for the Canadiens if Joel Edmundson misses any significant time starting the regular season. We heard from guys like Rob Ramage and Frankie Bouillon, the development staff, after rookie tournament wrapped up and before training camp, that it's going to be an exciting year of development ahead. In fact, Rob Ramage even mentioning that some more additions to the development staff have been made. Scott Pellerin has been brought on board, who has been in the development game with the Toronto Maple Leafs for a very long time, as well as Nick Carrier, who used to be an assistant coach at the AHL level when the Montreal Canadiens affiliate was the St. John's Ice Caps. He was an assistant coach under Sylvain Lefebvre. He has transitioned since then to being a scout, a scout for the Montreal Canadiens, and now it seems he is going to transition into a development role as well. So really good to see they're rounding out that development staff, kind of going along with that theme that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have been preaching ever since they were hired, that a return to a focus on development needs to return to the Montreal Canadiens organization, and that seems to be what's happening. So it's going to be an exciting training camp, and we can't wait to bring it all to you. So we've covered the exclusive interview with the media member. We've covered the exclusive interview with the player. What about the coach? Well, on this week's episode of the Press Zone podcast, which is our Laval and prospect focused podcast that I host with Rick Stevens every Tuesday over at ahlreport.com. This week, we were joined for an exclusive one-on-one sit-down chat with none other than Laval Rocket head coach Jean-Francois Houle. He joined us, of course, after rookie camp, where he was acting as head coach for the Canadiens rookies all throughout the camp and tournament. So Jean-Francois joined us to talk about the rookie camp, how he felt the prospects did, and we really kind of dove deep with JF on all of these new development initiatives going on with the Canadiens, what he foresees in the future this season for the Laval Rocket and the young prospects and all of those kinds of things. Here's just a little excerpt from that interview if you missed it.
I'm very excited to get started, and it's our staff is here right now. We're going to use these 2 weeks here before our training camp to evaluate the players and see where they could fit in our roster. And then, once Montreal Canadiens start cutting guys down, we're going to head to Laval and have our training camp. We're not going to change very much. We like the way we did it last year. We had some success with it. We were happy with it with our camp. It's pretty much like 2 days of practice, and then it's 2 days of scrimmage, and it only lasts 4 days because then we have exhibition games. But it gives us an opportunity to see some of the ECHL players that we might need to call up during the season. It gives us a chance to try the different players in different positions, and we're going to have some tough decisions this year. Looking at the roster, it's going to be a jam at both forward and defenseman. It's a good thing to have some depth, but as a coach, it's sometimes it's heart wrenching to have to let some of these guys go. But it's part of the business, and you got to move forward.
This interview with JF Wool can only be heard right here at Rocket Sports Media on our Press Zone podcast. He talked with us about things like Caden Primo's future and the path ahead for him this season, which of course is a big topic of conversation after Carey Price's news and Primo's extension. He talked about the exciting defensive prospects that will likely be rotating in and out of Laval this season, and what he just sees as things start to shape up for the Laval Rockets season and their training camp, and what he and his staff will be watching for during the Montreal Canadiens training camp in terms of evaluating the talent that's there, and some of those will eventually be coming to Laval. Click the link above, head over to the Press Zone at thepresszone.fm, and you'll have a link right to that episode of the podcast. You can check out the full interview. We always appreciate JF taking time for us. So yeah, there it is. The Rocket Sports team literally working the phones. It was an exciting week. It was a lot of work, but that's it's so rewarding for us to be able to do this kind of work and bring it to you, the fans, bring it in a way that is easy for you to listen to or watch. And I can promise you that here on Habs Hockey Report, we're going to be having our own exclusive interviews starting in a couple of weeks. And that will be very exciting as well. We'll have some prospects here joining us on the show. Again, you don't want to miss a minute of it. Make sure that you've hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. There is a lot of exciting content coming your way. Don't forget this week's feedback forum question: who is the one player you are most excited to watch during the preseason this year and during training camp this year? Leave that answer down in the comment section below. Can't wait to read your responses next week on the show. Don't forget, if you've got a question that you'd like answered and tossed into the All Habs mailbag, happy to answer those as well. If you've got questions about the Canadiens, about hockey in general, about the Laval Rocket, about prospects, certain players, anything, drop that. If it's hockey related, drop that in the All Habs mailbag by leaving that question down in the comment section below. Happy to answer those on an upcoming episode as well. Last week's feedback forum question was asking you to realistically state where you believe the Habs will finish this year. Will they make the playoffs? Will they finish middle of the pack, or will they finish in the bottom five? Jay says he believes they're going to finish bottom five. Then we have Dave, who says, I can honestly say I have no idea where the Habs will place this year. Maybe a middle of the pack surprise. I see the 2022 roster as a team with a lot of experienced NHL forwards. If the injury bug hits our D and or our goaltending, expect a bottom five finish. What did we just say about Joel Edmundson? Scary stuff. Thanks for your comment, Dave. Appreciate your response. And we just can't wait. We're so excited that preseason is underway. We are going to have actual games to talk about next Thursday, which is going to be very exciting. Can't wait to bring those to you. If you missed last week's episode of the show, be sure to check that out right here and come back next Thursday for another great episode of Habs Hockey Report right here at All Habs.